Parikshit Luthra, ahead of Apple CEO Tim Cook's visit to India and the launch of 2 Apple stores in Mumbai and in Delhi on 18th and 20th, we learned from sources that the government is favourably considering a flat basic customs duty on high-end mobile phones and a reduction of duties on mobile phone components as well. In fact, the industry has been demanding that the current 20% basic customs duty on mobile phones is high and should be reduced to a flat rate between 5,000 to 8,000 for phones over 25,000 to 30,000 rupees. This, according to them, is necessary to protect domestic manufacturing, protect legitimate retailers and check smuggling as well. Any such move could help high-end mobile phone makers like Apple. So what would the Indian government like to convey to Tim Cook? Well, India wants Apple to increase domestic manufacturing, deepen domestic value chains. Officials would want Apple to start assembling the 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max in India. Apple is also likely to be nudged to start iPad production in India, which is taking place in Vietnam as of now. The government is also keen to know about Apple's commitment to India once the PLI schemes come to an end in 2026. But before we get to that and we go across to our special guest, Mr. Pankaj Mohindrau, let's see what the Apple's flagship store in Mumbai is all about. It will be launched on the 18th of April, followed by the launch of its Delhi store in Select City Walk in Saket on the 20th. Shibani Gharat is here to take us through the details of the upcoming store launches.
This, in fact, will be their first flagship store in India, which will be in Mumbai. It is, if you would have seen the pictures, it is the Kali Pili theme store pictures that have been revealed so far. And it's a fairly big store. Now, Apple Store, as compared to, the Apple resellers that we are used to, is much, much different. First, it's all about experience. You get to experience the Apple products in the store. And they are almost the same. Any store that you go to, whether it's New York, whether it's Dubai, whether it's Singapore, all stores almost look similar. You have free Wi-Fi access in the store so that you can actually get to experience the product through and through while you're there, and there is no pressure to purchase. Then you can actually buy the product online and, go to the store and pick it up. That's another facility which is available at Apple stores. Then they have several initiatives running at their flagship stores across the world. One of them, and one of the key initiatives, is Today at Apple, where they get in their talent, their employees to conduct workshops for Apple users. Also, they get in experts, let's say photography experts. So how to master photography on your iPhone is something that, is touched upon at this Today at Apple initiative. And the highlight of these Apple stores across the world is their service and after service. From installing your iPhones or devices that you purchase at Apple Store to the after sales service, whether you're having an issue. I have seen people actually get a replacement for their devices within a few seconds of just taking the device to the Apple Store. So the experience of Indian consumers, which has been limited to the Apple resellers and the multi-brand outlets, will be now you will get a wholesome Apple retail experience through these stores in Mumbai and Delhi.
All right. Thanks, Shibani, for joining us. Of course, you will be there at the Mumbai launch, and there's a lot of excitement here in Delhi as well about the launch in Saket. I'm now joined by Pankaj Mohindroo, Chairman of the Indian Cellular and Electronics Association. Mr. Mohindroo, thank you very much for joining us. This has been a demand that the ICEA and the mobile phone industry has been making to the government, and that is to reduce the basic customs duty and also slash import duty on more mobile phone components. But to start with the basic customs duty, this is a point that even Apple has raised before the government. How important is it to rationalize this duty from the 20% currently? What are you asking for?
I think what happened was that there was a period in which the PMP was very vigorously in place, and we were uncertain, we were not confident, and there was a requirement of reaching a certain number of production at a certain time. But what has happened as a result of this is, while 99% of the phones are being made in India, you sometimes can't have one or two odd models of phones which can be made in India, because we have large number of models. And this is not peculiar to one brand. This is across all brands where you are getting high-end phones. Motorola is involved in this. Uh, Google is involved in this. Other big companies who have high-end phones. So the 22% duty encourages the gray market. So there is necessarily a high-end market which is not getting produced in India. So the high custom duty encourages the gray market. Suppose a phone is a lakh and the duty is 22%, plus there is a 18% GST on top of that. That was a very, the duties, the GST was increased by 50% from 12 to 18% in March 2020. So the cumulative impact is about 44-45%. So it becomes, easier to get a phone from outside India, smuggle it into India, and our estimate is that we are between 10 to 15,000 crores worth of smuggling is happening in this small segment, which is significant. And that is something which can be curbed without disturbing manufacturing or upsetting the supply chain. We can cap the duty at a level, and that makes it difficult for smuggling to happen, because the arbitrage and the attraction for smuggling or slipping a product in is not there. So this is what we've been requesting, and a reduction from 20 to 15% across the board is now in order, because we can't live in protection perpetually. So 15% with the 10% surcharge on it, which is 16.5, is more than enough across the board too. So this is it's a dual demand to have duty capped at a particular value and have across the board rationalization to 15%.
Right. So you're asking for a basic customs duty across the board to 15%.
Yes, please. Yes.
Right. Mr. Mohindroo, also tell us how this would help high-end mobile phone makers like Apple in India. We believe that when Tim Cook comes to India, one of the points that India would like to raise is how Apple is going to indigenize more. What is their long-term commitment? What is their roadmap after 25, 26 when PLI schemes come to an end? How important is a further reduction in import duties on components on BCD to ensure the likes of Apple manufacture more in India?
We have not asked for any duty removal on any component which is out of the phased manufacturing program, which is a signature program of Government of India itself. All we said was that customs duties which have been imposed out of that plan, which were not intended, because the government and the industry came together and made a plan that this is how the phased manufacturing program is going to work. There were impositions on certain products, certain components and sub-assemblies, which were not planned by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. That is all we were asking in the interim, that please take those back, because they are not getting you any revenue, right? It's very marginal revenue. It is upsetting the whole supply chain, because what is happening is that the high duties have a certain indigenization negative reaction also. I'll tell you why. If a duty is, say, 5% or even 7.5%, it has a different impact when you are indigenizing. But when you have a higher duty and the industry is essentially export led, and that is how we planned our industry, then what happens is that you are, by high duty, you are actually perpetuating imports, because for exports, there are multiple windows to import at zero duty and export. So if you have a higher duty, which we have in many cases, what happens is that the domestic component manufacturer or the sub-assembly manufacturer goes into a different zone in a different behavior and seeks to skim the market up to that duty. And suppose it's a particular component is 100 rupees and duty is 15, 115. What happens is that if I am importing the same, and in most cases we have FTAs with Vietnam, etc., it's at zero duty. But if it is coming from other countries, it will come at 100. But the Indian person, whether it's a global company or Indian company, will price it to at 113 or 114 to cream the market up to the import duty component. Now that becomes detrimental to the nation's aspiration to grow manufacturing. And also, we have given copious research on our duty structure compared to Vietnam, China, and so on. We are under a misconception that China and Vietnam have high duties. And we have, it's not a published report at the moment, but we have given the report to all sections of the government that we have very high duties. And in comparison to these manufacturing destinations, we are at a disadvantage. And what actually happens is we think that we have created a good environment for promoting manufacturing, but actually we are creating a rent-seeking environment as far as supply chain is concerned.
That's an important point. But coming to our next question, Mr. Mohindroo, if we were to ask you, because right now Apple is in the news because of their launch next week. We have been seeing reports about how Apple is now making 7% of its phones in India, how they've assembled more than $7 billion worth of iPhones in India in the last fiscal. But keeping all of this aside, what is their level of indigenization at present? What is the domestic value addition right now?
You know, we look at it very differently. In fact, this is a question I ask very frequently, that what is the import of electronics into China? Not export, import of electronics into China. And, you know, the number is very large. Most people think that China is a very protected market. The number, just for your information, is over $650 billion. Okay? So, but what is China able to do? It's able to export $900 billion plus. Okay? And plus their domestic market. So they are importing 650 billion and they are producing 300 billion more plus another 350 billion of their domestic market. So they are adding $600 billion plus of value in the country. Right? Now, we will take time to do this. India will take time to do this. We will have to see that we keep the import channel, the supply chain very globalized, very easy, very fluid, right? And that should enable everyone possible to first assemble everything under the sun in electronics in India and export large portions out of it. You see, this value addition is something
my final question
is trying.
Yeah. Right. We're running out of time. If I can just put one final question to you, sir, and if you can answer it briefly. What about moving iPad production to India? Do you feel that we've already lost that to Vietnam, or is there still a possibility of wooing Apple and getting them to move some extent of iPad manufacturing to India? Very briefly, if you can answer in 20 seconds.
But Parikshit, I'm not answering any specific questions like that. We will like all tablets in the world to be assembled in India, made in India, of all companies. Tablets are under the IT category, which is 8471 category. And there are certain disadvantages there We have to put a proper scheme together, which is under the works now. So we would like every, a large portion of tablet manufacturing to come to India.
Right. We've run out of time, but Mr. Mohindroo, thank you so much for joining us, giving us your view on what we need to do to increase our manufacturing footprint in the mobile phone sector, especially high-end phones and tablets. We're heading into a break, but don't go anywhere. We get you an exclusive on Hindustan Unilever bridging the gender gap at their Sumerpur plant. Don't go anywhere. That's coming up.